Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Kyle Clark, everybody!
Hi, everybody! That's a fucking fact, by the way, because I saw half the crowd. He's not black or Latino as far as the last census is concerned. But yeah, I'm doing student teaching down there, and I'm going to milk it for as long as possible until I'm murdered. But that has nothing to do with anything. The first thing I want to say is that this is what disappointment feels like. My first time in front of a brick wall at a comedy show, fucking fake. That is what our economy is down to. We don't even have real bricks. How am I supposed to live that dream? So I would like to start this show with a little bit of a public service announcement for you folks. And I broke the fucking thing. Well, it's all part of a master plan to just kill time. Alright, so if you throw a baseball like this, people are going to start to talk. So people think I'm gay from time to time. I don't know if it's the girl pants or the purple bandana or what, but it happens. And I guess I'm not what you'd call butch, but I feel like I get a bum rap. So like, this is a great story. I thought I was in love recently, and with a lady. We would hang out at night. She would just sort of show up on my doorstep, and she'd just crawl into my bed and snuggle, and we'd be laying there. I'm fucking using the couch. I thought to do this earlier. And I go in to like make my move, because things are going well. And she's like, no gay best friend, stop! And I'm sort of mid-move. And I'm just, what? But, like, I have a hand in a cookie jar. And so I lean back and she's like, no, you're the gayest man I've ever known. And she's an actress, which means I had to crawl over an army of queens to take that role. So we have a fucking argument for a half an hour. And there's no point in my life that I was prepared to have that argument where I'm actually convincing someone that I'm trying to sleep with them and then I'm not kidding. If I had known that was going to be the case, I'd have thought long and hard that day that I looked at that David Bowie record cover the first time and was like, that guy's pretty cool. I'd have walked over to the Nuge and never looked back. But unfortunately, not the case for my soul. And the saddest thing is the argument that I ultimately tried to come up with was, well, how do you explain the massive erection, I'm being facetious, I assure you, but the moderate erection poking you in the back right now? And she looks at me point fucking blank in the eye and goes, I thought you were kidding. Oh yes, the old boner rub. I almost got you, dear. But this is not my first case of mistaken sexual identity. A few years back, I love going to indie rock concerts because there's nothing more fun than a room full of sullen guys, because you put a strobe light and some getting rid of those inhibitions, you got a kicking gay club going on. But so I'm talking to some dude and we're hanging out and he's like, hey, we should fucking hang out sometime. I'm like, yes we should, because we get along and I don't make friends easily. And so he's like, hey man, so come over. So I roll over to his house. And I'm wearing this shirt as I knock at the door, and he's like, hey man, how's it going? Dude, I love your shirt. Because it's like, come on, and it's fucking Captain Kirk. Do you know how drunk and nerdy you have to be to buy this shirt? But I'm like, thanks man, yeah, I fucking don't regret this shirt at all, but I'm making mileage out of it. And so he's like, yeah, and I'm like, hey, I love your shirt. And her shirt says, I heart nerds. So we go in and we're talking about stuff. He's like, hey man, you want a beer? I'm like, I love beer. And he's like, hey man, you want me to put on the Strokes? I'm like, please, put on the Strokes. And so we're sitting there on the couch, sort of catty corner, and he's like, is my apartment cold to you? And I'm like, it is kind of chilly. And so he's like, I'm gonna get us a blanket. And he brings back the nicest comforter I've ever seen. And puts it over both of us. So we're now like knee touching because it's cold enough. And my thought was never, I should go. Or, hey, something's awry. My thought was, I'm making new friends and he likes my shirt. So finally he's like, hey man, do you like the internet? And I'm like, internet? I love the internet. So he's like, that's fun because the internet's in my bedroom. I'm like, then let's go. So now we're in his bedroom. And I still don't see anything wrong with this. And he's like, well, you can just sit down on the corner of the bed. And I'm like, I will. And he's like, let's watch this funny video. I'm like, I do love a funny video. Is there a cat or someone getting hit by something? He's like, there's both. I'm like, that's kind of weird. Animal cruelty is not fun, internet. But so, finally he's like, it's cold in here too, isn't it? I'm like, it is, I gotta say. And he's like, why don't you just crawl into my bed? So, I'm laying in his bed, and he's like, hey man, he crawls in with me as we're watching the video, and he's like, hey man, do you want a back rub? And I think to myself, I've never had a back rub before. Not thinking that the reason I've never gotten a back rub is because the only reason I've ever given it a back rub is because I'm trying to fuck you. So, he's giving me a back rub, and instead of thinking I should go, what I start thinking is, his fingers are magic. And then finally, I got to think the greatest thought I've ever thought in my entire life. And that is, as he lifted up my Star Trek shirt, I could feel his balls on the small of my back. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a wonderful